Welcome to our International Student Brief program. Today, we dive into the fascinating world of art graduates in China, where despite the booming interest in art and culture, many graduates struggle to find jobs in a competitive market. The shift in parental attitudes towards art education is noteworthy, yet the job landscape is not keeping up with the influx of graduates. Next, we turn our attention to the UK, where Chinese Ambassador Zheng Zeguang recently visited Cambridge University, encouraging students to serve their homeland after graduation. This visit raises questions about the influence of the Chinese Communist Party on students abroad and the implications of such patriotism in a foreign educational environment. Finally, we discuss Australia's Education Minister Jason Clare acknowledging the high number of international students contributing to the rental market. With immigration numbers soaring, the government is facing pressure to manage the housing crisis effectively. Join us as we explore these pressing issues affecting international students today. Please stay tuned for more details. South China Morning Post reports on the challenges faced by art graduates in China amid a booming interest in art education. Jackie Zhang, an art history major, expresses his aspirations to work in New York's vibrant art scene, yet acknowledges the slim chances of achieving his dream due to stringent visa policies and a saturated job market. As more affluent families in China encourage their children to pursue art degrees, the reality remains stark: the domestic job market is not equipped to absorb the increasing number of graduates. Despite the cultural shift towards valuing art, exemplified by parents prioritizing museum visits, many students feel unprepared for their careers. A survey reveals that 85% of art students struggle to find employment, often resorting to government jobs that do not align with their artistic aspirations. The Telegraph highlights the visit of Chinese Ambassador Zheng Zeguang to Cambridge University, where he urged Chinese students to serve the motherland upon graduation. This meeting, which included discussions on China's achievements, reflects a growing concern about the influence of the Chinese government over students abroad. The ambassador's call for patriotism and responsibility resonates with a broader narrative of monitoring and controlling Chinese students in the UK, raising alarms among MPs regarding the potential stifling of academic freedom. With over 150,000 Chinese students enrolled in British universities, the government's attempts to exert influence through student groups and funding have sparked fears of a culture of surveillance and intimidation among students. The Sydney Morning Herald reports on the rising tensions surrounding Australia's immigration policies as Education Minister Jason Clare acknowledges that the influx of international students is contributing to the rental market crisis. With international students comprising 7% of the private rental market, Clare emphasizes the need for foreign student caps to alleviate pressure on housing availability and rental prices. The political debate intensifies, with opposition parties criticizing the government's handling of migration numbers. As the number of student visa holders reaches record highs, the government faces challenges in balancing the benefits of international education with the pressing housing concerns of residents, prompting calls for immediate legislative action to address the situation. Telegraph. A recent investigation by The Telegraph reveals that UK universities are increasingly dependent on foreign postgraduate fees, which now constitute a staggering £6.2 billion of their income. This reliance has escalated to the point where some institutions derive as much as 55% of their total funding from international students. As government immigration policies tighten, including restrictions on postgraduate visas, experts warn that these universities face dire financial risks. Nick Hillman, a former government advisor, emphasizes that international students have shifted from being a supplementary source of income to a critical foundation for university finances. The repercussions of potential funding cuts could lead to diminished educational quality and a decline in the UK's global standing in higher education. South China Morning Post. In a significant policy shift, Canada has announced tighter regulations on foreign students and temporary workers, aiming to reduce the number of temporary residents in the country. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government plans to cut the number of international study permits to 437,000 by 2025, down from over 500,000 in 2023. This move comes amid rising public concern over immigration's impact on housing and living costs, with many Canadians feeling that the influx of migrants has contributed to societal challenges. Despite the government's intention to tighten immigration, advocates argue that blaming newcomers for complex economic issues oversimplifies the situation. As Canada prepares for a federal election, the government's stance on immigration is becoming increasingly contentious, reflecting a significant shift in public sentiment towards newcomers. Telegraph. With the rise of hybrid working arrangements, many British workers are dreaming of a nomadic lifestyle, working from exotic locations like beaches or cafes in Europe. However, this desire raises important questions about tax implications for those who choose to work abroad. UK residents are subject to taxation on foreign earnings, while non-domiciled individuals have different rules that may exempt them from UK tax on overseas income. The complexities of double taxation agreements, DTA, come into play, allowing individuals to avoid being taxed in two jurisdictions. However, without a DTA, workers may still claim foreign tax credits. Employers must also navigate potential tax liabilities if their employees work abroad, particularly concerning Social Security contributions. Understanding the nuances of residency rules and tax obligations is essential for anyone considering a working holiday abroad. Telegraph reports on the complexities of student loans in England, highlighting the importance of understanding the repayment plans available based on the year of entry into higher education. For instance, students who graduated with a Plan 1 loan will see their debts written off at age 65, while those under Plan 2 face a 25-year repayment period. The article emphasizes the rising costs of university education, with average debts reaching £50,000, and introduces a calculator that can help potential students assess whether they will ever fully repay their loans. The key takeaway is that many graduates may not need to rush to pay off their debts, as the loans could be written off over time, serving as a cautionary tale for prospective students considering the value of a university education. The Sydney Morning Herald shares news of Victoria's initiative to attract international students by reserving a quarter of its regional skilled work visas for graduates from local universities and TAFEs. Premier Jacinta Allen announced this plan during her visit to India, aiming to provide international students with pathways to live and work in regional areas of Victoria after graduation. The government anticipates that around 500 visas will be available this year, targeting key skill shortage sectors. Allen's commitment underscores the significance of international students to the state's multicultural community and the economy, while also addressing workforce shortages in regional Victoria, encouraging more skilled workers to settle outside of Melbourne. In another piece from The Telegraph, the discussion centers on the pressing need for universities in England to have the freedom to raise tuition fees, which have been capped since 2017. With inflation, fees that could have risen to £13,000 are still stuck at £9,250, leading many institutions to face financial instability. The article reveals that nearly 40% of universities are expected to run budget deficits, partly due to reduced international student enrollment following government crackdowns. Students express dissatisfaction with the value of their education amidst increasing costs and diminishing face-to-face interactions with faculty. The piece argues for a new approach where universities can set their own fees and encourages employers to assist with loan repayments, suggesting that the current system stifles financial growth and quality in higher education. Guardian, in a bid to address the financial turmoil plaguing English universities, vice-chancellors are proposing a plan to limit the growth of international students in exchange for the ability to raise tuition fees in line with inflation. This initiative, outlined in a forthcoming blueprint by Universities UK, UUK, aims to provide greater financial stability amid rising costs and pressures on local services due to the influx of overseas students. UUK's chief executive, Vivienne Stern, emphasized the need for sustainable solutions that balance the benefits of international students with the challenges they pose, such as accommodation shortages. The current domestic undergraduate tuition cap of £9,250 has fallen short against inflation, compelling universities to rely heavily on international fees to maintain financial health. Telegraph, the author recounts a personal journey to uncover the rich history of their family name, Whittaker, which once held significant wealth in Sicily. The Whittakers thrived in the 19th and early 20th centuries, amassing fortunes through the export of Marsala wine and other goods while navigating the challenges of natural disasters and organized crime. A serendipitous discovery of their family's past led the author to visit Villa Malfitano, where the last of the Sicilian Whittakers lived, revealing a trove of historical artifacts and connections to the local heritage. The narrative weaves through the legacy of Benjamin Ingham, who played a pivotal role in the family's rise, and highlights the contrast between the family's former grandeur and the current state of their properties, many of which now lie in disrepair. New York Times, as the Federal Reserve prepares to cut interest rates, consumers are eager to understand the implications for their financial lives. With rates currently around 5.33%, economists predict a potential drop of up to 1 percentage point by year's end. This anticipated decrease is expected to benefit borrowers, particularly in areas like auto loans, where dealerships are already responding by offering more incentives to attract buyers. However, savers may see lower returns as financial institutions adjust to the new rate environment. The article outlines 5 key areas to monitor as interest rates decline, including the impact on borrowing costs and the overall affordability of loans, as the economic landscape shifts in response to the Fed's decisions. South China Morning Post: Malaysia's health ministry has reported a new case of mpox, a less severe variant of the virus, in a man who had not traveled abroad recently. The patient began experiencing symptoms such as fever, sore throat, and cough beginning September 11, with a rash developing the next day. The ministry confirmed that the patient is stable and has been isolated, while all contacts are being monitored closely. Since July of the previous year, Malaysia has seen 10 cases of mpox, all of which belong to the clade 2 variant. The World Health Organization has declared mpox a global public health emergency for the second time in 2 years, highlighting the disease's potential severity, particularly for vulnerable populations such as children and those with weakened immune systems. The Sydney Morning Herald: in a strategic move to bypass federal student caps, Victoria's Premier Jacinta Allen announced a $5 million fund aimed at establishing overseas campuses for universities and TAFEs. This initiative was unveiled during her visit to Delhi, where she emphasized the importance of Victoria's trade relationship with India, valued at $3.6 billion. The fund will support transnational education, allowing international students to pursue Australian courses abroad, including dual degree programs with Indian institutions. As part of her trip, Allen visited significant cultural sites, reinforcing the state's commitment to fostering connections with India. She also addressed issues surrounding extradition requests for individuals involved in serious crimes, showcasing a multifaceted approach to international relations. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
Scrolling through the headlines, another crazy day. 6 degrees of stories, connecting in their way. From the weather to the sports, and everything we see. People making news on TV screens for free. 6 degree world, where the news comes in a whirl. Every story ties together like a ribbon in a twirl. Sit back and watch it all, big and small they call. From city lights to countryside, we're connected after all. From city lights to countryside, we're connected after all. The laugh, the cry.